This is the Personal Finance Show.
Hi, I'm Bo Humphreys, and this is the Personal Finance Show. What if I told you that you would get a reward every time you went for a walk? Okay, sometimes I'll reward myself by walking to the donut shop, but I'm not talking about that kind of reward. Carrot Rewards is a free app for your smartphone or Fitbit that helps you earn your favorite reward points by making healthy lifestyle choices. My favorite part of the app is the steps section. It tracks the steps I take every day to come up with my average daily steps and then rewards me with a few reward points every day I exceed my average. But healthy lifestyle choices aren't just about walking. As I discussed in episode 20 with Canada's financial literacy leader Jane Rooney, financial wellness is just as important as physical and mental wellness. And let's not forget environmental wellness, which is about living a lifestyle that respects our surroundings. For all these other wellness topics, Carrot Rewards sends you offers in the forms of quizzes and surveys within the app that only take a few minutes to complete. Megan Nobrega introduced me to Carrot Rewards at the Canadian Personal Finance Conference last November. So I decided to visit her at her office and find out more about her personal finance story and how she ended up at Carrot.
So my family has a really long background in the financial industry, and so when I was growing up, it was always like, put 10% of your money aside, and the stock markets are doing things. And so I kind of grew up and never really understood, but got by enough that as a kid I could kind of ask some of the questions.
Yeah.
So when I was really young, my dad would come home from work and I'd be like, did the stock markets go up or down? And in my brain it was like an elevator, and that was sort of the extent of our conversations on that.
And what would you do depending on the answer, or you're just curious?
I hugged him either way. It didn't really make a huge difference.
How did they do today, Dad?
It was sort of just how I could relate. And then as I grew up, I started to get a little bit more insight into exactly what that meant and what that controlled, and suddenly putting 10% of your paycheck aside made a lot more sense once I had a job and had a paycheck.
So when was the first time that you had the ability to follow that advice?
I think I was 15 when I, in theory, could have started doing that.
Where were you
I was not 15 when
Where
I
were you
did
working?
start. I was coaching tennis, and I was working at a tennis club.
Nice.
So that was kind of my background. I started, coaching at 15, and then started trying to pick up some shifts at the club, and then eventually focused more on coaching and started working retail.
Were you a junior tennis pro before that?
Definitely not a pro.
No, but
I like to think I was.
Competing in leagues?
Yeah, I was a competitive player with the Ontario Tennis Association.
Okay, nice.
So that was sort of a good place for me to combine a bunch of interest areas. Mm-hmm. As I continued playing, I was spending so much time at the club that it was instead of just hanging out here, I might as well try to do something useful with my time.
Yeah.
So I convinced them to let me give it a go and sort of built it up from there, and then ended up running a program with a friend of mine at a club where we grew up as well. Okay,
so do you remember your first paycheck, or how much it was, or
I think it was $75, and I was over the moon. I did not put aside my $7.50 to savings, which would have been a good idea.
Okay, yes, you hadn't started that yet.
I learned the hard way when I was a little older that should have happened. Yeah. But I was so excited.
Did you spend your money for a while? If you got money, you just spent it? Or
it wasn't so bad. It was more I would just have it, and I viewed it as spending money.
Yeah.
And so if I ever wanted to do something, I was well, now I can, because I'm a working person, and that's what you do.
That's the benefit. That's your reward for working. So you just kept doing that. Maybe you're spending for a bit. When was the first time you started following the rule?
Probably when I was 17, 18.
Okay. So
so still pre-university.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I wish I had started earlier.
Well, that's still pretty good. I mean, I don't know if you would have amassed that much, or have you done the calculation?
True. I haven't.
Seem like you have regret.
I should, but I haven't. Although every once in a while, that $7 does feel much more beneficial.
That could be $83,000
exactly.
today. No, you're not even close to old enough for that to be true. So you had some savings then, and then you go to school?
I did. So I went to school in the States.
Oh, nice.
And so I actually wasn't allowed.
On a tennis scholarship?
No, alas. I had injuries, and I was this is just really a lot of work.
Okay, so no more tennis.
I played
you moved forward.
On a club level.
Okay.
So I still got to travel and play in some tournaments and stuff, which was great.
Okay.
But it was much
During
lower
school?
stakes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, But you had to pay for school in the States then?
I had some financial help, which was great.
Yeah.
But I wasn't actually allowed to work while I was there. So it became a whole thing of like, suddenly those $7 that I was not putting aside when I was 15, I was like, man, that would have been great for like groceries and stuff.
Or, as some people say, like, what if your parents put away $7 in RSP when you were, RESP, sorry.
Yeah.
When you were younger. And I'm talking to people, and some people had that, and it's really kind of nice, and some people don't. And I just like to bring awareness to, hey, wouldn't it have helped you out, especially going to the States? Now, this is costly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what school do you go to?
It's called the College of William and Mary.
Okay.
It's in Williamsburg, Virginia, so like 2.5 hours south of D.C.
And why there?
I had some family there.
Oh, nice, okay.
And it's like a pretty weird and wonderful little place.
Sure.
It's like this university town that's set right beside a colonial village.
Yeah.
So Williamsburg is in the historic triangle.
Colonial
of the US.
Williamsburg.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
I
so
know.
you have this like 1 mile stretch of like colonial reenactment. And then right after you have the university.
Oh.
And so we would be like going to restaurants or stores and you would see someone in like all their colonial outfit and you're like, I'm in Future Shop.
That's
this is insane. What's going on?
That's awesome. I've heard about these places, of course.
Yeah, think like Black Creek Pioneer Village.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It was that version.
So you're there and you can't make any money.
No.
But you were going on tours, but those don't make you money.
No.
Just
so it was all,
tours.
just kind of fun competition.
Okay, so you're coming out of this with some debt.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky. Like I worked still when I came home for the summers. And so I was still doing some coaching, working retail. And so that definitely helps like at least supplement my life while I was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely had some stuff to figure out.
What was your view on it? Like, what were you thinking at the time? Like, when I get out, I'm going to get a job and I'll pay this back.
That was sort of the way it was supposed to go. Yeah, it was like, ideally a job before you graduate. So you're kind of comfortable and know what you're going to do. And then, start kind of setting stuff aside and paying things back as you need to. I was definitely really lucky. Like, I didn't have as much debt as I definitely could have coming out. My family was able to support me, which was great. But yeah, it was definitely something to consider of like, even just to kind of supplement like groceries and living expenses. It was like all of a sudden a budget became much more real than it had before when I was living with my family.
Yeah, so now have you paid that off, if you don't mind me asking?
I am in the clear now, yeah.
You are in the clear. So how long did it take?
Not too long. Again, like I was really fortunate, but within at least like a year or so of graduating, I was like pretty much set. I could afford to live on my own and feel like I had established myself as a person in the world.
Okay, so now you've established yourself, you're clear of the debt, and now you got that 10% rule in your head. Mm-hmm. So did you start doing it again?
I did most of the time.
Okay. Yeah, nobody's perfect.
But yeah, it's definitely something that I've tried to be sort of the guiding rule. So put aside 10% and then either like put it into a TFSA or an RESP or whatever, and just start kind of trying to build it up that way. It still feels pretty overwhelming sometimes, I think, especially like trying to live in Toronto, trying to like maintain a social life and kind of balance everything out. So it's definitely like, it's never always 10%. It's less than that sometimes. Sometimes you have to dig into it, which never feels great, but...
Yeah, things come up.
Yeah.
But, you have that focus, and are you just starting? Like, what job is this for you now?
This is job number 2 since I graduated.
Yeah, so you're kind of just, you're starting in this world, and people need to hear about our different stages. A lot of people your age might still be paying off the debt, right? Depending on where they went. They had help, or OSAP. I mean, that kind of stays forever. Sorry for the rest of Canada. Ontario, Savings School. What is it? What is OSAP? What is the acronym? Ontario Student Assistance Program. There you go.
Nice.
I'm going to cut out everything I said before that because that's embarrassing. But no, I won't.
I feel like no one would know what it stands for.
Does anyone know? We just say OSAP. I say it like I said it to somebody from the States, right? Like they don't know what OSAP
like,
is.
I don't know about that.
What is that? Is it that what comes out of the maple trees in Canada? You are in an okay position, but of course, when you're starting out, the job market is not the greatest, and the salaries for starting aren't the greatest, and the cost of living, especially in urban markets like this one, are really high. So you're taking care of yourself as much as you can financially, and then what about like the rest? What kind of brought you into this like wellness? So you're working for a wellness company now, basically, right? So this is your second job. Mm-hmm. Where were you before this?
Before, I had an internship at the David Suzuki Foundation.
And that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get to talk to David ever?
I did. He's a great guy.
Yeah. I used to live, this is a weird connection, by the way. We found out, I think it was his brother or his uncle or something used to live in the house we were in.
Oh,
and
my
so
gosh.
I don't know if that, when I was in London, Ontario, it's such a weird, anyway, they were Suzuki's and they were all related and maybe he would come there. It's such a nothing example because I never met him or anything, but that's what I think about.
You feel that connection though.
I feel
and he's
connected.
one of those people, it's like everyone wants to feel that connection to him because he's such an incredible person.
Yeah, is he like he comes off so wise on television, which is the only time that I've seen him. Mm-hmm. Is he like that?
He is. He just sort of has this like personality where as soon as he starts talking, you like lean in a little bit and you're like, I just want to like be a part of this. And he's wise and he's funny and just like a really kind person. My first real experience while I was at the David Stuckey Foundation was this idea of like a job being made up of friends as opposed to just colleagues. And within that organization, it's very much like everyone's really friendly with each other. You have relationships in the office as well as outside of the office where you'll spend that time together. And I found that really extended to David as well as his family, where it's definitely a very close culture in like the best way, which I think makes them stronger and then also helps, as he's kind of like going out and speaking on television and in person, he kind of carries that warmth with him to everyone that he meets as well.
So you had like a work family, as we call it. And this concept, I understand it. I've had it very much. It's harder when you have like kids, for example, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Because then, where you would normally be going out with everyone after you got to go, you got kids to
take
care of,
you
right?
Have
so it's a good thing to build when you're younger, and then it seems like David could also do it because maybe his the middle family experience was gone, and he has maybe more time to do that as well, and being the leader of the organization he's participating. So you got a really good taste of family, and so is that how it is here?
It is. So when I was there, that was kind of one thing that became really clear was I try to keep myself as a generalist. So I have kind of specialized in certain roles, but I like learning a lot of things and trying to learn fast. And so it sort of came out that like the one thing that I really needed to find was a company culture that I believed in and that they seemed close. And so I could, maybe I'm selfish, but so that I could kind of keep that close relationship and really look forward to going into the office.
Well, you got to keep the values. That is obviously an important thing to you, right? And you wouldn't last in a place where everyone was just like, do your work and get out, and here's your paycheck. See you later. So
when I started at Carrot, my internship with the foundation had ended, and so I was starting to look into other organizations that I thought had similar values. And I came across our CEO, Andreas Suvaliotis, through some mutual connections, and I sent him an email, and for some reason he responded, which was a good start. So we got to chat a little bit, and I was really interested in kind of the social wellness element where Carrot is ultimately a for-profit business, but it's so everything that we do is focused really heavily on making sure that we're providing value to the people that we're talking to. And that was one thing that really came across very quickly when I was talking to Andreas is like everything else aside, the core of the company was really just trying to make the world a better place, which is something that I've always wanted to try to be involved with. And so after meeting him, I got to know a few of the other people around the office, which at the time it was a pretty small team. I think there were 8 full and part-time people. And so I kind of got to come in and get to know some of those individuals. And it was immediately, even before I really knew that I wanted to work here, I was like, I want to be friends with these people.
Yeah.
And I like want to keep this relationship going, whatever ends up happening. If they want me to work, great. If they don't need me, that's okay. But like, I still want to know these people and I want to follow what this business is doing. And so that was sort of the first sign to me that like, okay, this is a place that I could see myself. Fingers crossed that they can also see me here, which, spoiler alert, as it turned out they could, which was great.
I think we knew that.
Yeah. And so then I got the opportunity to come in and that kind of initial feeling of just like wanting to be friends with everyone and form those relationships has not really ever left almost 2.5 years later.
The company kind of values about overall wellness aligned with yours as well, right?
Very much so, yeah.
If you were going out and getting into a tremendous amount of debt or going to McDonald's every day, not that that's necessarily a bad thing when you're younger, that probably wouldn't line up. So what would you say are the core values of Carrot at this point? The
biggest one that I think really transcends everything we do is that we ultimately want to make the world a better place. Right now we're in Canada, so it's helping Canadians be healthier, better versions of themselves. And so, when we first started, we had some relationships within health, so both government and a few private organizations that were interested, but we really we're able to kind of test our platform, which gives people loyalty points for learning about things that will make them healthier and better across a variety of different areas. But we started in health just to kind of see what would happen. And we had some really great results early on, focused mostly on healthy eating and physical activity. Mm-hmm. And so once we were able to kind of start getting into those results, we realized that it was working. And we decided that, there's a real opportunity for us to kind of expand our vision to be a much more comprehensive vision of wellness. And so there's a lot of social determinants of health that ultimately impact a person's ability to make good choices for themselves and feel well in their own lives. And so that includes things, obviously, like health, general health, like we were talking about, so healthy eating and physical activity, as well as mental health, financial literacy, environment and energy efficiency and things like that.
Awareness.
Yeah, so basically anything that we believe can help people just feel more comfortable in their own lives is sort of what we've been able to expand out to. And so we're doing education across a whole different variety of programming areas, which has been really exciting to see grow and continue to be improved upon over the last few years.
I saw you present this idea. I mean, you presented your company at the Canadian Personal Finance Conference in November. Yeah. November.
Yeah.
And so then I immediately used your code to download the app. And because I'm like, well, free, like I don't have air miles or what are the
we have Aeroplan miles, Scene points, Petro points, Drop points, and then out on the West Coast there's also a program called More Rewards, which is run through the Save on Foods grocery and pharmacy.
So I knew I had the Scene, my wife. So I put my wife's Scene card in, and I know now there's only one per account, right?
Yes.
So if she does one, then I would have to get another Scene card or whatever. But she may or may not. We'll deal with that when it comes.
Cross that bridge.
But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this out, right? Okay, so what initial sign up, I get 100 Scene points, something like that.
Exactly.
And then every week or so, I get something that says, find out some more about health or eating or your credit score one. I get a little more on that. The thing that really got me that I think you just started it, or maybe you just clued in on my app because I just started, was the steps.
Yeah.
Was that a new feature after I got it, or was it just new for me because I just started?
So I think it was a little bit newer for you because you just started.
Okay.
The steps program we've had out now for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, a year and a half.
But it has to get to know me first to determine my steps.
Exactly. So the thing that's unique about the steps program within Carrot is that it's actually very much personalized to the individual. Some of the concern when you have like one step goal that everyone is held to is that the reality is that people are at different levels of physical activity. And we don't want to make anyone feel bad if they're not able to reach that 10,000 threshold or whatever it is.
That's the standard, right? I was reading across the web and 10,000 just came up all the time. So 10,000 steps a day is what everyone sort of recommends as like the ultimate healthy thing.
Yeah.
But not everybody can do that.
Exactly. And the idea is, for people who might be walking less than that, we don't want them to feel hopeless in their kind of health and wellness journey. And so it's, if you're walking 5,000 steps a day, that's okay. We're going to meet you where you are. And then we're going to try to give you some incentive and some help in helping you ultimately move up closer to that 10,000. And, maybe you never quite reach it. We're going to continue trying to challenge you and recalculate based on what you're able to do at that current time. And then give you the education and the resources and tools so that you can eventually continue improving upon that.
Yeah, so I made the mistake of getting the app just before the holidays. In the wintertime, I move a lot less, right?
Yes.
And I work from home, so some days, if it's cold outside, I'm not going to even leave. Yeah. So like yesterday, I did 500 steps, which is embarrassing to me. Today, I took the train in, I walked from Union to Yorkville and then Yorkville back here. I probably already have. My goal has been reduced to 2,500 because they're like, well, it doesn't seem like you're making your 3,500, which is, it was set when I was going to a couple of conferences, I think, right? And just walking around all day. But the best part is it's bringing awareness to something that I didn't even really think about. In the wintertime, I usually run in the summer and spring, summer and fall. I run every couple of days. So I'm getting my physical activity in. But in the winter, not only do I not run, but apparently I don't even move around in the house very much. And so like 300 to 500 steps, I'm looking, and it's not even because I get four Scene points if I meet my goal.
Yeah, every day.
And then if I meet it, 10 days in a row?
10 out of 14 days, yeah.
10 out of 14, I get another 40 on top of that.
Yeah.
So like it's not terrible, right? Like this, but it's not because of those little rewards, but they do add up. It's just something that's telling me that, hey, maybe I should just move around a little bit more. You don't have to do the 10,000, but hey, you're not even doing your regular activity. And I like that the way that it's set up. But the rewards are great too, because, if it was just an app and I had no incentive, So how did you come up with that? Like, did you guys start it without incentives or anything, or was it always from the get-go?
It was always intended to incorporate the incentive component. So two of the things that we really tried to build the platform around were the first one being that almost everyone in Canada has a smartphone, and that's continuing to increase as well. And so we saw a lot of power there where it's always with you. People are checking it so regularly. So we saw a lot of power in combining that smartphone technology. And then the other one was that Canadians are actually among the largest subscribers to loyalty point programs in the world. So the average Canadian has about 4 cards in their wallet, if not more. And some people won't even remember that they've registered for these cards, but they ultimately have that account. And there's a lot of power there, which our CEO, Andreas, has worked with loyalty points for a very long time. It's composed most of his career. And so very slowly, he was becoming more familiar with the power of these points and what people would do in order to get them, no matter how small or big. And so his idea was then to kind of apply that power. He had started mostly in environment. He had started a program called Green Rewards. And from there, he thought, there's really an opportunity here for us to expand the depth of this programming, focus in on health, look into wellness, and try to help people become healthier and achieve their goals. And so, when we first launched, we had these loyalty point programs, and we started seeing the success behind that. And, people were really motivated by it. The STEPS program we had launched a couple months later after that initial launch out in BC. And we had people writing into us saying, it was 11:30 at night and I had not reached my STEP goal yet, but I really wanted my 2 Aeroplan miles.
Exactly.
And so I was walking around my apartment building for the next 20 minutes and we were like, oh my gosh, you need to go to sleep, but also that's awesome.
I ran up and down the stairs. If I'm close to my goal, why would I just let those 4 points go away?
Exactly. And people always say, well, for anyone who works there, it probably doesn't have the same power over you guys. And it's that's fundamentally untrue. My roommate came home one night and I was running around our kitchen table trying to get my point. She was like, what is going on?
Which, of course, if it wasn't so, it's right now, I wouldn't even run on the streets outside right now on the sidewalk because I'm going to fall on my ass. It's so slushy right now today, and then other days it's icy and it's cold. This is not the time that we go outside, and maybe you can go to a gym, but maybe you can't make it to the gym. Maybe you're working all day, but you can find other ways. When you have a little bit of a thing that says, hey, did I make hopefully you don't check at 11 at night. Sometimes I do though. And sometimes I just accept it. Today, no. Or I didn't have my phone. I did some other stuff, but I didn't have my phone on me. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. I wish I could tell the Carrot Rewards that I actually, because I don't run with my phone. Okay. So it's never going to know when I run, which is fine with me, right?
Well, what you have to do is get a Fitbit. Which you can connect to the app, and then you're good to go.
Okay, so you don't even have to have the phone connected in any way. You can have the Fitbit. Well, that's probably in my future. We'll see if my budget allows for that.
There we go.
So coming back to the financial wellness part of it, you've done a couple of things. I've seen one, but what other financial bits are you working on some?
We're definitely working on a ton. The thing that's been really interesting, and I've been lucky enough to get to see up close, is that there's a ton of incredible innovation happening across Canada in financial literacy. Okay. And so people are really, this is becoming a much more prominent issue for people. There's obvious gaps in financial education across Canada. And so there's a lot of organizations who are just doing some really, really cool things to both try to educate people on financial literacy topics, but also to actually make the process of acting on those a lot more simple. So an example which you had mentioned is with credit scores, there's an organization, Borrowell, that we've been able to partner with in the past who they saw an obvious need to educate people about what credit scores are, but then they also have this ability for people to get that for free. As an organization, we kind of identified them as someone that we'd like to work with and then got to go through that process and test it out for ourselves. And we found it extraordinarily beneficial. And so we said, this is something that we really think more people need to know about. And so we would love to work with you guys to educate people about it and then connect individuals who want to get their credit score with that tool so that they can do it for free.
With companies like Borrowell, and there's a couple other ones in Canada as well, it's no obligation. You can go get your credit score. They sell other products, but you don't have to buy those. No obligation, something for free, as long as you have a little bit of willpower and you don't want to borrow $35,000 just because you can. Definitely good advice to go and get that. Because I believe... Wait, does it come with a credit report now?
It does. They just launched it.
Okay, just launched. Yeah. So I think both, because Borrowell is Equifax, Credit Karma has TransUnion. Yep. They're also free. And you can get both reports from both credit reporting companies in Canada for free, which was never a thing. Oh, sorry, you can get the report by mailing it in, which was really a huge pain in the ass.
No one's going to do that.
No one's going to do that, but you can never get a credit score for free.
Yeah.
It was always an added value product. And so what's happening is companies like Borrowell and Credit Karma are basically, they're paying for it on our behalf. They probably get a nice discount from Equifax and TransUnion, but they're realizing the value of educating us. Yeah. You know, with the hope, of course, that you'll use them if you need to borrow things or whatever else, or maybe other advertising that they're showing. But these are things that we should definitely take advantage of. And you have a kind of a similar model where you're getting the rewards companies to pay, right? So, like, where do those scene points come from?
So, sorry, they're actually not paying.
Who pays?
So, we and our partners do.
Okay.
So it's an interesting model where we can buy the points from our loyalty providers.
Yes.
And then we provide those back to our partners with a slight margin on it so that we're able to do all of the creative work. So within our organization, any program that goes out, we write the content, we do all of the testing, we make sure that things look okay. And there's a bunch of management that comes with that as well. And so for our partners, they kind of view us as a platform that they can disseminate education to a large population of people.
Of course.
We have about 250,000 users right now. And so they can come to us to get that reach. And then we'll actually provide all of the creative services to create that content, send that out to people, as well as the kind of going through and making sure that we think that there's value here and that our users will be interested in that.
So Borrowell would be an example of a partner.
Yeah.
But what about for the health and the eating quizzes that I've taken? Who would be the partners on that? Is this government?
So it's a whole mix.
Yeah.
We were really lucky when we first started. We had those relationships with federal and provincial government. And so that kind of helped get us established in the provinces. We also have a number of charity partners who act as kind of advisors for us. And so they'll go through and basically vet the content to make sure that everything is aligned and that we're not skewing in one direction or the other. So it really helps us kind of stay neutral but still educational and providing benefit to our user base. From there, we've then been able to expand a little bit into the private sector as well. So across all of our different verticals, healthy eating, financial literacy, et cetera, et cetera.
Basically, anybody that's aligned with it's offering something that's going to be of value to people.
Yeah.
And that obviously the rewards points people are okay with using too, but of course they'll probably leave that to you to decide. Well, yeah, you're right. We're understanding more. I just it's not published yet, but I interviewed Canada's financial literacy leader, Jane Rooney.
She's so lovely.
Yeah, she's great. So she's going to be on probably in about 3 weeks.
Okay.
There's a conference just down the street at One King West called Financial Wellness and Retirement Readiness. And it's the focus is on wellness in the workplace. The idea there is companies are investing much more in infrastructure in terms of benefits instead of just giving you the massage therapy and the chiropractic and dental and all that. They're including resources for financial literacy. How do I even learn how to do an RRSP, as people like to say? What is it? Can you buy me one? And these are, unfortunately, seriously, some people think in this way because it's just, everyone's like, it's RSP time, and no one really is like, well, what is that?
It's such an interesting thing where people hear these terms and ideas all the time, and you really grow up with it being like, oh yeah, TFSA. But so often you don't actually know what that means or how it'll help you. But there almost seems to be like people are embarrassed to ask the questions.
Yes.
And so it's finding ways that you can kind of remove the barrier to that and provide them that education. For some people, they're going to know it and be like, okay, whatever, I learned this, 10 years ago. And for others, they're going to say like, thank God someone told me what this actually means. Well, now I want to do it.
In a non-invasive way, like the app comes up and it just says, hey, here's a little thing. So a TFSA means this or this or this. And you pick the right answer or not. And you're told this kind of people, like you just said, some people might already know this stuff, but the basic stuff is what we need to focus on until everybody knows it, right? Like, why do we teach math in school? We teach financial literacy, but it doesn't take hold. Like, if I ask somebody what 2 + 2 is, if somebody doesn't know, we're in trouble, right? We're in trouble. But if somebody doesn't know what RRSP means, by the way, Registered Retirement Savings Plan, okay, it's a plan. It's not an account, right? It's just a plan that you can use to designate an account. Which, again, is confusing. It's hard to explain it in one sentence.
Yeah.
TFSA, tax-free savings account, terrible name. It's the worst name for what it is. Again, it's not an account.
Yeah.
It's a plan like the RRSP,
yeah.
right? These are just ways to designate accounts so that they're not taxed. are not taxed later, depending on which one you're talking about. The whole idea here is the government made these things so we could use them. But if all we talk about is it's RRSP season, you better get everything done before March 1st. Well, first of all, that's misleading because you can invest your money anytime in the year. Please, we just had a couple of eye rolls in the room about that one. RRSP season, we could have a whole other podcast about that. But I really like Carrot Rewards. There's some financial stuff in there, but it's just overall because wellness, it's all connected. I have mental health history, addiction history. I went through a bad gambling addiction. I have ADD, which is medicated. I'm involved in all of these bits. If I'm not physically well, it's going to affect my mental health. If I'm not taking care of my mental health, it's going to lead back to the addiction. And all of this stuff has financial impact.
Yeah.
If I'm not eating well, it's affecting my finances and my mental health. Mm-hmm. So you can't just we can't do the patchwork, right? We can't just be like, okay, only financial right now. Yeah. They're all connected.
And that's the problem, is so often they're treated as these independent things where it's oh yeah, no, my health is great, so I only need to focus really heavily on this one area, where they're all interconnected. And that's one thing that I think we've definitely learned even more as we've gone through the process with Carrot is you can give people the education in one specific area and you'll see benefits in somewhere else that you never would have expected, which has been really exciting. And it kind of gives us the fuel to want to continue and identify other partners out there who are either doing cool things or have resources and educational tools that we might not even have thought of yet, which is really exciting and kind of hints at us getting better as we continue and over time.
So can you talk about any other plans that are coming up, for the app or other things? Yeah,
so it's mostly within the educational side. It's really continuing to try to build that out. So within financial literacy, we've gotten a great start in budgeting, actually, with the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada.
Okay, yeah.
We've done some information on credit scores and TFSAs. And so it's really trying to build that out. And so looking into things like automating payments, that you can round up your payments and then save that extra amount. So if I spend $2.25 on a coffee, the 75 cents that would get me up to that $3 mark will go into a separate account that can then be saved. So that's actually with a company called Milo.
I just had Milo on the podcast.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I know there's a couple of different options, but yeah, Milo's great. The concept is great, and it costs barely anything, or maybe it's going to be free if you go through you. Who knows? Yeah,
so really trying to see the different areas that we can continue building out within financial education, within healthy eating and physical activity, and continuing to build that out. Within the STEPS program, we have some exciting stuff coming. So a lot of our users will know now that you can connect with some of your friends to see how they're doing in their STEP goals, and hopefully give some encouragement if they need it to make sure that they're achieving it.
I got to get some friends.
We'll connect.
I'm putting my link in the show notes.
Okay.
And so that means you can't get the referral. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm getting it this time. And then maybe those people will be my friends.
That's okay. We'll step together.
Okay, we'll connect and step together.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely expect to see kind of some new features coming out with that, where we'll have more of that kind of peer-to-peer community element of stepping together and potentially challenging each other, and kind of seeing how we can develop that further.
And so the app is I'm on Android, so I can obviously download mine on Google Play, but iOS as well.
Yep.
Those are the only two, right? Or do people have Windows phones anymore? I don't even know what that is.
I don't know.
But you guys, yeah, exactly, right? It's irrelevant because obviously, if nobody knows about it, it doesn't exist. So iOS or Android, if you have something else, forget about it. And then you'll get the awesome apps like this one, Carrot Rewards. So just look for Carrot Rewards in your app store, and then use my code. Not Megan's code. No, I mean, if you know Megan, please use her code. I get, 100 scene points, or whatever my points is. So if you sign up with my code, I get 100 scene points.
And if they sign up with your code, they also get some extra bonus points.
And they get points too. And then they can sign up other people with their code, and it's just an incentive to keep going.
Yep.
And I think is 1,000 scene points a movie or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not so bad.
It adds up fast.
I'm already at 500, and that's just from a couple of offers and from stepping and my initial offer. My wife's happy; she's getting free scene. She might share them with me.
If you're really lucky.
If I'm
Otherwise, one of you might have to get their own card.
That's right. If she doesn't share them with me, then I'm definitely getting my own card. But it might, if she sees how many I accumulated, she might want to sign up too, and then I'll get 100 from her.
I see some movie date nights in your future.
Yes, well, yeah, and we're doing that already. So, Carrot Rewards. It's just the app for now. Is there any plans to make it anything else, or is it like the app your core? This is the way.
The app is the core,
Yeah.
And then it's seeing how we can potentially build some new features within that.
Yeah.
So ideally, some other kind of trackable behaviors like steps, different things that we can try to kind of continue that reach and impact on people.
It makes sense for you to partner with others who have the infrastructure like Milo or Borrowell for the credit scores, as opposed to trying to build it into there yourself.
Exactly.
They're aligned. They can provide. They see the benefit, and so yeah. I mean, it's almost like sky's the limit with your ability to partner and offer, right? And I don't get bombarded by the app or anything. It tells me when a new thing comes out. If I have notifications on, I can turn notifications off if I want. But if they're on, and then they tell me it tells me if I've made my steps for the day. Which I haven't seen it yet, which I'm surprised. I'm surprised, but maybe I just I got to go in and check. Maybe I'm close.
I would bet you are.
Yeah, I walked a lot today, and it's terrible. Maybe it just seemed like a lot more because it's so terrible outside.
I know, so they'd almost count for extra because you made it here in one piece.
Now, if you can work on that,
yeah,
it's like what are the conditions outside? Okay, bonus. You actually went outside. Bonus points for you.
There we go.
Let's work on that. I'm sure there's some kind of a different kind of accelerometer that would have to be made for a phone to do that. Weather sensors.
I'm sure it's coming.
It's coming, right?
Yeah, someone is going to do it, and then we're going to try to find a way that we can work with it. So
yeah,
we'll see.
There's so much who would have thought even, I don't know, 10 years ago that I could I'd track steps and then I could somehow get bonuses for that to get movies. When you think about it, when you look big picture, it's like, that seems a little insane. If someone said, hey, if I walk outside today, I will be closer to getting a free movie.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're crazy, man.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Back to the Future or something like that. So, all right. Well, I'm glad that Carrot is a thing. I'm glad that I saw you at the CPFC because I didn't know this existed, and I know there might be other similar tracking things out there, but I don't know that there are others that give you rewards in this way.
We are the first.
Are you the first? Yeah.
Yep.
And so you're in Canada now.
Yep.
I'm guessing you're not in Quebec. I always say this.
So right now we're in British Columbia, Ontario, and then Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah, okay.
So we're trying to expand across the country. I mentioned earlier that we work with the provincial ministries typically to get ourselves established. And so it's really kind of a personalized experience where we go to each different province and kind of figure out how we can structure the program so that it's most beneficial to the population there.
So there's a couple left that you gotta go. I just say because Quebec has almost different laws. They do. Mm-hmm. And they're always when there's some kind of a app or a contest or something, it's nope, not in Quebec. So we should probably.
I have high hopes for Carrot in Quebec.
Yeah, but you're
it's
working
definitely
on
coming.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, there's some good people in Quebec, and they miss out on these things because of whatever legislation. I'm sure it's for good reason, but things will be in Ontario way ahead of time before they get to Quebec. You got to jump through the hoops or whatever it is. So let's cross our fingers. You'll get in there for anybody who's listening from Quebec. But until then, come to Ontario and download the app. And, and then,
we'll see you there.
Or get yourself an address in Ontario.
Yep.
Is that maybe that's all it takes? I don't know. Carrot Rewards. You got a website though too, right?
We do. www.carrotrewards.ca.
Carrotrewards.ca. And this is Megan. Go to the App Store, and thanks, Megan, for
thank you so much.
Sitting down with me today.
This was great. Thank you.
If you like this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Google Play, SoundCloud, or whatever app you use to listen to your podcasts. It would mean a lot to me, and it only takes a few seconds. For the show notes and any links from the episode, head over to my website, investwisely.ca. And while you're there, please feel free to send me a message on my contact page. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Personal Finance Show. I'll be back next week with blogger, podcaster, and author of the brand new book, The Year of Less, Kate Flanders.